Black rain is falling over Tehran after the strike on the oil facilities. After a night of IDF strikes on the Iranian oil reserves, the Iranian army's oil tanks in Tehran are still burning this morning. Following the strike on the reserves, Iran is facing a severe fuel shortage. In Tehran, the space headquarters was attacked. In extensive Israeli Air Force strikes in Tehran, the space headquarters was struck. According to reports coming in now, the Air Force is not striking only in Tehran. A wide wave of IDF strikes is on its way across Iran. The IDF spokesperson's unit announced that strikes have begun against infrastructure of the Iranian terror regime in Tehran and in additional areas all across Iran. The IDF confirms that designed chief of staff of Iran's leader has been eliminated as well. Powerful strikes in the city of Khormabad in western Iran were heard as well, and a former senior Mossad official promises what is about to come will leave everybody speechless. Today, we will bring you all the information. Iran made one mistake too many. It could lose the last oxygen pipeline it still has left. The United States is considering an operation to seize the uranium in Iran. US President Donald Trump reveals the Iranians plan to attack the entire Middle East and take it over. He added, Iran's next leader will not last very long if he does not receive my approval. For the first time, the United States and the United Arab Emirates attacked in a desalination facility in Iran. The price of oil is on its way to $100 per barrel, and the whole world is feeling the shockwaves from the attack on Iran. All the Arab states are waiting for a collapse in Tehran. The explicit condition of the Gulf states for moving to an attack is going to come up in this report. The battle over Iran's future begins. And while the war continues with full force, the real battle over Iran's future is already being fought in Tehran. Who will shape it on the day after? In addition, the IDF carried out a strike against Hezbollah today that changed the rules of the game, and the focused message from the Israeli Air Force is that Hezbollah did not expect this. The news is hard for Israel. 2 IDF soldiers, heroes of Israel, fell in Lebanon today. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your Boots on the Ground, bringing you the whole truth about what's happening in Israel, and right now, everything that is hot in the Middle East. Trump announced today, Iran's next leader will not last very long without my approval. After a series of statements regarding Iran's future supreme leader, US President Donald Trump told the American network ABC that his country is not interested in going through a similar move every 10 years or in allowing Iran to possess nuclear weapons at all. Video clips reaching us from the Iranian capital show black clouds of smokes covering the skies after last night the IDF struck dozens of fuel storage facilities that were used by the military forces. The Israeli Air Force continues eliminating commanders of the Revolutionary Guards at a dizzying pace. Today, the IDF eliminated Ablakeshem Babiyan. Babiyan was responsible for coordinating operations against Israel and activating the regime's emergency mechanisms. The elimination constitutes a blow to the Iranian leadership's ability to manage military activity. The Americans issued an unusual and threatening message to the citizens of Iran regarding the regime's actions as it now operates under the pressure of collapse. Stay in your homes. The regime is using you as human shields. This was the statement. And Iran is targeting the radars on which the American defense systems are based. A special ground force operation to seize Iran-enriched uranium is under consideration. Tehran is carrying out many attacks using one-way attack drones and is targeting the radar systems on which American air defensive systems in the region rely. While the Iranian attacks continue towards the Gulf states, the countries of the region are conducting diplomatic efforts to contain the escalation. Egypt is working against the Gulf states in order to prevent them from being dragged into a direct confrontation with Iran. And the United Arab Emirates attacked a water desalination facility inside Iran. A week after Hezbollah joined the fighting, the IDF estimates that the organization has been significantly damaged, and a senior military official said that the damage to Iran and to the organization in Lebanon could create a window of opportunity to strike the entire Iranian axis. Israel and the United States are warning Iranian civilians about Iran's Hamas method, and the assessment is, be patient, the dangerous phase will end soon. The United States military is warning the residents of Iran that the regime is launching missiles and drones from densely populated areas, including cities such as Shiraz and Isfahan. We will not be able to guarantee your safety, so please leave. That was the official announcement. And a dramatic piece of news reaching us right now. Overnight, the Israeli Air Force eliminated the top leadership of the Iranians' Quds Force in the heart of Beirut. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your Boots on the Ground, bringing you the whole truth about what's happening in Israel. This is the ninth day of the Lions Roar War, or Epic Fury in its American name. The war against the Revolutionary Guards in Iran, which is the head of the axis of evil in the Middle East. Just a second before we begin, I want to ask all of you to keep spreading the truth. Share our content with as many people as possible. Click that subscribe button and look for us on social media platforms, Yair Pinto and Mati Shoshani, to see life behind the scenes of this war. And today, we will have a special interview with good friends of mine, the Bearded Bible Brothers, a live, in-depth interview about the biblical perspective of this war. But let's begin with the facts of what's happening in this conflict today. The oil tanks are still burning this morning in northern Tehran, and black clouds of smoke are covering the skies after the night in which the Israeli Air Force raised the level and for the first time struck the energy array that serves Iran's military. Alongside this wave, the Revolutionary Guard's space headquarters, a satellite control center used for terrorism, dozens of bunkers, and more than 400 targets in western and central Iran were also attacked within a single day. So why is Israel striking the fuel, the command, and the space domain and the regime's emergency systems now? And is the ninth day of the Lions Roar War, or Epic Fury, the moment when the pressure shifts from hunting launchers to breaking Iran's abilities to continue and managing a war? I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your Boots on the Ground, bringing you the whole truth about what's happening in Israel. And again, this is the ninth day of the Operation Lions War, or Epic Fury. We call on all of you to hit that subscribe button to help us share the truth. Join us every day with on-the-ground reports from TBN Israel on our YouTube channel. Now, this morning opened in Tehran with an image that is not easy for the Iranian regime to hide. The Shaharan oil depot in the northern parts of the country and in the northern parts of the city continues to burn for long hours after the nighttime strikes. The IDF announced that it struck 30 fuel storage facilities in Tehran that serve the military forces of the Islamic Republic of Iran. This is the first time since the start of the war that Israel has struck the Iranian national infrastructure directly, and not only headquarters, launchers, warehouses, and production sites. The meaning here is clear. The damage is no longer only to the ability to fire, it is also to the ability to maintain movement, supply, fuel, transport, and military routine. And this blow is being felt inside Iran. This morning, the daily fuel quota for residents was cut from 29 or 30 liters to 20 liters, and the regime was effectively forced to admit that supply has been damaged. And at the same time, there are reports of fuel stations shutting down in several areas and of temporary restrictions that are intended to maintain the balance in consumption. In other words, Even if Tehran tries to claim that everything is under control and that backup reserves were activated, the very decision to lower the daily quota is a sign that Israel managed to touch a real oxygen pipeline, not a symbolic pipeline, not a psychological target, but a mechanism that sustains the state's ability to keep power moving. But it did not end with fuel. During that same wave, the IDF launched another wide wave of strikes in Tehran and in additional areas all across Iran. The IDF spokesperson's unit announced strikes against the regime infrastructure and later detailed that the Revolutionary Guard's space and also satellite headquarters have been attacked. This is a target of special significance because it includes a reception, transmission, and also research center for the Iranian Space Organization, as well as the control and operation building of the Kayam satellite, which was used by the Revolutionary Guards for surveillance for advancing terror operations against Israel and against other countries in this region. Alongside that, 50 bunkers storing munitions were also attacked. In other words, Israel is not only striking what is firing right now, it is also striking the eyes, the intelligence collection, the transmission, the command, and the stockpile. And at the same time, there are also reports of powerful strikes in the city of Kermanabad in western Iran, and of a wide wave of strikes in additional locations. This connects to the big figure of the day. More than 400 targets were attacked in western and central Iran over the past day, and amongst the targets were ballistic missile launchers, weapons production sites, arms depots, defense systems, and additional regime infrastructure. The operational significance is that the ninth day no longer looks like a day of one pinpointed blow, but like a sequence of systematic pounding in several layers: the fuel layer, the munitions layer, the command layer, and the space layer, and also the production layer. And under this pressure, Israel continues eliminating the regime's key figures at a dizzying pace. Today, the IDF officially confirmed that Abu Qassem Babiani was eliminated in Tehran, the man appointed as the designated chief of staff of the new leader, who has not yet been chosen. Babian also served as the head of the military bureau of the leader and as also the chief of staff of the regime's emergency command, Katam el-Anabiya. According to the IDF, he was responsible for coordination amongst all regime bodies in advancing operations against Israel, and he activated Iran's emergency mechanisms in times of crisis. This elimination has a double significance. On the one hand, it damages the military chain of command, and on the other hand, it damages the mechanism that he's trying to organize the day after Khamenei at all. This point is very important. At a time when Iran still has not managed to formally publish a name of the next supreme leader, Israel has already eliminated the chief of staff who was meant to serve him. This is not only a blow to one man, this is a message to the regime. Even if you choose a successor, even if you try to project stability, even if you move to emergency mechanisms, someone is tracking, someone is identifying, and someone can reach there as well. And at the same time, the Americans continue applying growing pressure. The unusual and threatening message published by CENTCOM to Iran's citizens was sharp. Stay in your homes. The regime is using you as human shields. According to the statement, Iranian forces are launching suicide drones and ballistic missiles from densely populated civilian areas in cities such as Dizful, Isfahan, and Shiraz. Washington emphasized that civilian sites that become platforms for launching weapons lose their protection and may become legitimate military targets. The Americans are also saying explicitly that they cannot guarantee the safety of civilians while inside or near such facilities. This is a very heavy message because it prepares the ground for a deeper stage. It tells the Iranian citizens if the regime continues to hide in a densely populated area, those places will not remain immune either. And it also tells the world, we are warning in advance, unlike the Iranian regime, which directs weapons indiscriminately towards airports, hotels, and residential neighborhoods in the Gulf states. By the way, also against me and my family here in Israel and millions of other Israelis, citizens. And within that same framework, Trump raised the bar again. He said that the Iranians plan to attack the entire Middle East and take control of it. He said that Iran's next leader would not last long if he did not receive Trump's approval. And he added that everything is on the table. When asked not whether the United States would send special forces to secure Iran's enriched uranium, this is no longer only a message of deterrence. This is the language of a shaping of a new order. Who will lead? Who will survive? Who will hold the uranium? And who will dictate the conditions? In just a moment, we will also touch on that. But first, right now, Israel's borders are under constant threat. You know what's happening in Lebanon. More than 100,000 soldiers were called back to defend our country. Young men leaving their homes, leaving their families, leaving their lives, answering the call to protect all of us. But the reality is difficult. The sudden mobilization of so many soldiers has put enormous pressure on the system, and many units simply do not have enough protective gear, ceramic helmets, and vests, and also protective glasses. Equipment that can mean the difference between life and death. This mission is deeply personal. I'm a reserve soldier in the IDF tank command units, and I was called up to defend our borders many times, and also on October 7th. It is frightening to having to face enemies with outdated gear, and every item of gear that was donated to us was much appreciated by my unit and myself personally, and also by my wife. Be sure of that. David Rose is the founder of the Israel Magen Fund. I know him personally, a great guy. His own son is one of the reserve soldiers who was called up to defend Israel, and he has another son on standby waiting to go in as well. Like thousands of other parents, he knows what it means to send a child into the front lines. And that's why the Empower Soldier campaign was created, to make sure that our soldiers have the protection that they need. So you can help protect the soldiers that are protecting Israel. You can donate a specific piece of protective equipment, or you can make a general donation, helping supply the gear that soldiers urgently need on the front lines. Every donation goes directly towards equipping soldiers with essential protection. They are standing on the front lines for all of us. Now, it is our turn to stand with them. So please, support the Empower Soldiers campaign today. Help give our soldiers the protection that they deserve. You can donate at israelmagenfund.org/give. Again, that's israelmagenfund.org/give. And now we return to the picture that we see on the ground. And that picture is becoming more and more regional. For the first time since the outbreak of the war, the United Arab Emirates struck inside Iran. The target was an Iranian desalination facility. In Israel, the assessment is that for now, this is only a signal, not a full entry into the war, but it is a very important signal. The Emiratis has already observed ongoing fire, and today it reported that Iran launched 16 ballistic missiles and 117 drones at it. 16 of the missiles were intercepted, or almost of them, but 113 of the drones were also intercepted, but the very launch itself and the fact that a country like the United Arab Emirates decides to return fire on Iranian soil, this is a regional escalation. And it is not only the Emiratis. Bahrain reported an Iranian drone strike on the desalination facility. Although the damage was defined as limited, minimal, Kuwait announced that 2 employees in the border security and the administration were terminated during the night after strikes on the fuel tanks and sensitive facilities. At the same time, in the Emiratis, Operation Lioness of the Gulf was activated to return Israelis And according to the morning reports, about 14,000 Israelis are still stranded there. In other words, Iran is not only managing to widen the military threat, it is disrupting the civilian routine, the aviation, the transportation, the trade, and personal security throughout the Gulf space. But here too, there is a clear line. The Gulf states are waiting for a collapse in Tehran and still do not want to enter a full war before they see clearer signs that the regime is truly destabilizing. Egypt is working to prevent the Gulf states from sliding directly into a confrontation with Iran. Jordan is holding phone calls with senior officials in the region, and the Arab League is convening. And in Israel, the assessment is that as long as clear signs of collapse do not appear, most Gulf states would prefer defense, interceptions, diplomatic moves, and perhaps more limited signals, not full entry. On the American level, a very sensitive layer is being added. According to the reports, Washington is considered a ground operation by special forces to seize Iran's enriched uranium, whatever is left underneath the rubbles from the first strike on Midnight Hammer. Not a large invasion, not an occupation, but a focused move on very sensitive materials enriched to a high level close to what is required for a nuclear bomb. This is indeed being seriously considered. The significance is enormous because it means that the United States is already thinking not only in terms of airstrikes, but also about the scenario in which it wants to physically lay hands on the materials in order to prevent the regime or whoever comes after it from having the ability to break forward. And at the same time, Iran is trying to hit what holds up the American defense in the Gulf. According to American sources and the satellite images that were mentioned, Iran is attacking radars that serve as the eyes of the American air defense systems in the region. It is doing this by means of one-way attack drones with the goal of reducing the early detection capability of missiles. This is a technical point, but a critical one, because if you hit a radar, you are not only taking down the antenna, you are trying to blind the detection layer on which American interception systems rely. In a war in which every second of warning matters, striking radars is an attempt to disrupt the entire response chain. And inside Iran itself, the pressure continues to build on the economic front as well. The price of a barrel of Brent has already reached $93, and the market is talking about the possibility of it climbing to 100. In the United States, a jump in fuel prices has already been recorded. In Europe, gas prices are rising, jet fuel prices are surging, and disruptions in the supply of oil, gas, and fertilizers is beginning to step into markets and consumers as well. The meaning is that even if the fighting appears to the distant viewer as a matter of explosions in Tehran and Beirut, in practice, the shockwaves are already hitting the energy markets, transportation, food prices, and the sense of stability of the entire international system. At the same time, the Lebanese front also continues to be an inseparable part of this campaign. Today, we also saw a strike that changed the rules of the game against Hezbollah, and also the heavy price that Israel paid. In the IDF, they say that Hezbollah made a strategic mistake when it joined the fighting. Since then, Northern Command has been operating in a wide preemptive strike against command and control opponents and centers of gravity, infrastructures, launchers, and buildings in Dakhla and in additional areas in Lebanon. More than 100 strikes in the last day alone, more than 600 high-quality targets over the last week, more than 820 precision munitions, and the message is clear. Israel intends to reach the heart of Dakhla as well, the headquarters as well, and everybody is trying to preserve the Iranian axis through Lebanon. During the night, another dramatic elimination was added to the heart of Beirut. 5 senior commanders in the Lebanese Corps and the Palestinian Corps of the Quds forces were terminated while staying in a civilian hotel in the city. in a strike carried out on the basis of precise intelligence. And amongst those that were eliminated, Majid Husseini, who was responsible for transferring enormous sums of money to Hezbollah, to Hamas, and the regime's proxies. And for the system of producing and transferring weapons, Ali Razeh B. Azar, the commander of the intelligence branch of the Lebanese Corps, Ahmed Rassouli, responsible for intelligence in the Palestinian Corps, Hussein Akhbadulu, an intelligence officer involved in target collection, and Abu Muhammad Ali, Hezbollah's liaison to the Palestinian cause. This is not another pinpointed thwarting. This is a devastating blow to Iran's ability to synchronize terror from Lebanon and to maintain continuous contacts between the Quds forces and Hezbollah. But alongside the achievements, hard news also arrived. 2 IDF soldiers were killed last night by fire towards a position in southern Lebanon. One of them is Staff Sergeant Maher Qatar, 38 years of age, from Majd al-Shams, a heavy engineering vehicle operator in Division 91, Combat Engineering Corps. As of the second soldier, at this hour, his name is still not permitted for publication. The IDF also updated that the combat officer was lightly wounded in the same incident. This reminds all of us that this campaign is not only about the skies over Tehran, and not only about oil facilities and radars. It is also about outposts, positions, the northern border, and the soldiers who are on the front lines facing Hezbollah. And inside Israel itself, Iran continues to fire. This morning, sirens were activated in the Dan block in the center of Israel. Several impact sites were recorded. 5 people were injured, including 1 seriously and 1 moderately. In other words, even after the broad damage to Iran's launching array, the threat still exists. It is smaller, it is more pressured, it is less organized, but it still is capable of causing harm. And so, the 9th day of the war looks like a day that connects all the lines together. Israel is striking fuel, command, space, logistics, Lebanon, and also Beirut. The United States is applying military, psychological, and diplomatic pressure, threatening the next successor, warning civilians, and perhaps also preparing a ground operation around the uranium stockpile. Iran is trying to respond through missiles, through drones, radars, infrastructure in the Gulf, and continued terror through proxies. And the states of the region is now standing on the thin line between self-defense and joining a wider campaign. This is no longer only a battle over facilities, launchers, and headquarters. It is a battle over who will hold Iran when the fire dies down, and who will dictate the day after in Tehran. And in just a moment, we will move to the live, in-depth interview with my good friends, the Bearded Bible Brothers, and ask the truly big questions of how does everything happening right now in the Middle East connects to the wider story of the region, of faith, and of what may still be coming. And now we have special guests with us, the Bible Bearded Brothers that are just joining this report. And I want to take the time and say hello and hear what they have to say about all the situation. So let me introduce you to Caleb and Joshua, and they are the Bearded Bible Brothers. First of all, for those of you who just meet them now, you can see why they got the name and like your flag very much.
Oh, thank you very much. We stand with Israel. We love to minister to the Jewish people, and we'd actually be there right now if it wasn't for the war. We had a tour scheduled to go on next week, but as you know, things happen.
Yeah, definitely. And I'd like to ask you, related to this situation, do you think that this is something that was prophesied about in the Bible? Do you think that this is something that we should see God is using, like for His glory after this war ends?
I definitely believe that God is setting this up for the benefit of Israel and the entire Middle East. And many people are asking, is this leading up to the Ezekiel 38 and 39 war? I don't believe so. It's very interesting that the Gulf nations seem to be against Persia or Iran at this time, and the players that are present in Ezekiel 38 just aren't aligning at this moment. So this is something completely different, I see, but it is obviously a building block, a setup to that moment. I don't see that the Shia Islamic government of Iran could ever be a part of that coalition with the other Sunni nations that we read in Ezekiel 38. So this could be the setup to eventually put that government in power. That will be in the end. But right now, I believe that God is setting up a reprieve for the Persian people so that the gospel can go forth in the Middle East and in Israel as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, love this answer. And many Americans keep asking, why did Israel drag the United States into this war? And what do you have to say about that? Is that something that you think is true?
I didn't see anybody dragging anybody. I'm pretty sure that President Trump isn't one to be dragged, number one. And as a nation, Israel is our ally. Yeah. And so if you actually look at the definition of what that means, it means you support each other and you protect each other and you defend each other. And this constant tenure that you've seen from people protesting across America, where they act surprised as though we come to the aid of somebody that is our official ally and our friend, it's obviously demonic. Because if you have a friend and I see my friend over here being harmed by my friend's enemy, I'm going to intervene and I'm going to step in and I'm going to stand with my friend in that fight. And that is what America is doing. And that's what America should be doing and continue to do.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that more than that, the Islamic Republic of Iran has been threatening the United States of America for years, calling the United States the big Satan and calling Israel the small Satan. So They've been chanting death to America as long as they've been chanting death to Israel. So I think that something that us as Jews learned throughout the years is when your enemies are saying that they want to destroy you, that they want to annihilate you, that they want to use nuclear weapons against you, you better believe them and do something about it. So I think that this is what the United States is doing right now in Iran. And we see that more aircraft carriers are joining in this battle. Do you think that this is going to be a prolonged battle? Because again, people think that maybe Trump will just drop a few bombs and that's it. But that's not how regime change works, right?
That's not how it works. You definitely don't just throw one punch and then put your hands down at your side in the middle of a fight. And I think Trump's made it pretty clear. Every news bulletin that I've seen, he says, this is just the beginning. If you think that what I did when I started was a lot, wait for what I got planned. And so, no, I don't think that this is over with. I don't think that he made that one strike and all of a sudden he's going to back off. I think he's going to see it through. And that's what we want. Yes. You obviously can't just kick up a hornet's nest and then leave it to be. And you're right. People seem to forget that Iran is a problem for everyone as far as their former regime that just got taken down, because they have said, hey, if you're not us, we want you out of here. And so that's something that's so ridiculous when you see the liberal protesters of America, especially those who stand for ideals of homosexuality, who stand for other ideals that are completely against the belief of that government. They would be the first ones taken out if the government came over here from Iran. So.
Yeah, definitely. And as you said, there are protesters in the United States of America that are supporting Iran now at a time of war. And it seems like the Iranian regime for many, many years has been able to infiltrate its ideology also to the United States of America. Do you see that happening in your area or in colleges? How do you feel that from there?
Yeah, in our area where we are in Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, we're seeing mosques pop up at an alarming rate. During the tenure of Joe Biden as president, we heard the reports of Islamic terrorists coming across the border into Texas. Now, thankfully, President Trump has sealed that up. But they have indeed infiltrated the college campuses. And it's not just these singular groups of people that have an agenda. It's really funded by mega people like George Soros or the Qatari government or even the government of China. And it's all to destabilize America and to try to create chaos within our own borders. And we know that, as Yeshua, Jesus said, a government that is allied against itself cannot stand, that we can't have that sort of turmoil. So they're trying to sow these seeds of division and distrust amongst our own people. So we don't know where we stand. But yeah, I do believe that the majority of American people understand the importance of eliminating Iran and standing with the Israeli government, not Iran as the people, but that regime.
And yesterday, actually, I was driving into a town. It's an affluent town named Southlake, and there were protesters on the street. And they actually weren't kids. These were 60-plus-year-old men and women standing with signs against war, standing for Iran, all these different things. So I think in a combination with what Caleb said, you also have people who are just ignorant. They haven't done any research. They want to protest the idea of war in general, the idea of fighting. But the problem is when you have an opponent who is set against your destruction, they have to be stopped. A war is necessary at times, and that's just how it is.
Yeah, exactly. If somebody wants to destroy and eradicate your entire nation, entire people, how can you negotiate with that? Okay, just kill half of our nation, not everybody. Okay, just half. Let's meet halfway. Okay, so it doesn't work like this. And something that we learned also here in Israel is that freedom and the ability to vote, to have any kind of rights is something that you need to fight for, you need to defend. And sadly, many people in the West are forgetting that their ancestors fought very hard to get to the point of having these freedoms. And this gets me to the last and most important point of talking to you guys is that this is a spiritual war, right? Because, I keep getting to the point of why would all these nations want to destroy Israel? We don't have natural gas, we don't have oil, we don't have gold. We barely have some, good oranges or something like that, but it's not enough to launch attacks against us from thousands and thousands of miles away. So why is it all happening in your eyes?
Well, it clearly is a spiritual war, and the spirit of anti-Semitism, which Caleb talks about all the time, he believes being the same spirit as the spirit of the Antichrist, has obviously risen up again. We were in Israel during October 7th when everything broke out. For about 48 hours, we were feeling the love and support of our nation, and then we watched it flip on its ear. We watched all of a sudden pro-Palestine, anti-Israel, all this protesting started online, all of this hate comments that we were receiving while we were still stuck in Israel during that time period. This is a generation that was not around during World War II, that has no reason whatsoever to have any skin in the game, if you will, against Israel. And so when you see that happening and you see a generation who has no understanding whatsoever of these ideologies just stand up and protest, it has to be spiritual.
And Satan knows the end. He knows that if Israel is a nation and stays a nation, then his end is near. And so he wants to do everything he can to eliminate the Jewish people, to break God's promises with the Jews that he made through Abraham. And if he can do that, then perhaps his end isn't in that bottomless pit and eventually the lake of fire. But we know the end of the story written in God's word, and his end is near. And we're going to stand for truth and do what we can as believers to declare the truth of Yeshua, the shared common destiny of America and Israel, and God's purposes and plans for the Jewish people.
That's right.
Well, I love that. And how can people pray for the situation?
It's very easy. We know that Psalm 122:6 says you can pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And that's just a very simple prayer. But when you're essentially praying for the peace of Jerusalem, you're praying for Yeshua to return quickly. You're praying for God's promises to remain fulfilled. He who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. And as the church of Messiah, the body of Christ as we are, even though we're Jewish believers, we need to stand with the Gentile brethren and remind them that God does not break his promises to the Jews, so he will not break his promises to the Gentiles. And if there is that God is not a man that he should lie, then that we should continue to pray and stand on behalf of the Jewish people, that they will see the truth, that they will stand against darkness, and that they will not be harmed, but will be under the covering of the Most High.
Amen. Well, thank you very much. And one last thing, can you please tell our audience how can they find the both of you on the social media, and you have your own channel. And next time you come to Israel, you make sure we do some cool stuff together, okay?
We're going to have to do cool stuff together. If you look anywhere on the internet and you see two hairy, sweaty, tall guys, it's us. But if you don't find us right off the bat, beardedbiblebros.com is our website. And Bearded Bible Brothers, if you type that in, that's going to get you to our YouTube, our Instagram, Facebook, all the different handles that you want. So,
well, thank you so much, Caleb, Joshua, the Bible Bearded Brothers. See you again in Jerusalem, hopefully very soon.
Yes, sir.
Bless
Thank you so
you
much for having us.
Thank you. Thank you very much to the Bearded Bible Brothers, all the way from Texas in the United States of America. Today, we salute a hero of Israel, Staff Sergeant Maher Qatar, of blessed memory, a combat engineering soldier who fell in southern Lebanon. And we also bow our heads in memory of the additional soldier who fell at his side, and whose name is still not permitted for publication. May their memory be blessed. And to all of you back at home, keep spreading the truth. Share, follow us. Most importantly, do not forget to pray. Pray for wisdom to our leaders. Pray for all of our soldiers that are fighting in this war in multiple fronts. Pray for the innocents that need to run to bomb shelters, for the children, and keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem. We'll see you again tomorrow.